script versus all of the code in Unity that happens as when the result set comes down. They're two different parsers. I mean, they're parsing the same data, but
The parser
clearly different
itself,
things happen.
The XML parsing itself, it's all done by, there's an XML library that ships with Flash, and there's a C# library.
But it's what happened next. What happens next?
Yeah, obviously that's totally different. I mean, the Flash client doesn't even use half the events. Our Flash game, we currently target it rendering at 15 frames per second. That is so wildly optimistic. I mean, if you had a crazy supercomputer updated to 2020 technology running Flash, you might be able to get 15 frames per second. I don't know what it's doing, but whatever it's doing, it does it slowly. Yes?
I know when I get a computer, the first thing I do is put a Flash blocker on it, for obvious reasons. Are you
We have so
worried
many
at all
people.
about people moving away from that?
I think, the common sense part of me wants to say if you want to play a Flash game on the web, you can't block Flash. But
well, yeah.
we do have, we have a customer service guy, and one of his first questions is, do you have AdBlocker Plus installed? And yeah, it's such a headache.
But it feels to me like a lot of, it feels to me like a lot of people are moving away from it. HTML5 being, like what a lot of people think is moving towards. How do you feel about that? Because you've invested so much time in this Flash, Unity hybrid.
I don't think Flash is going to win anytime too soon. I think right now HTML5 is still not fully baked. There's lots of impressive looking things in it. I thought IE9 was.
Nine's got it all.
But that's not out yet, right? That's just so exactly. It's nothing that you necessarily want to ship a commercial product yet. We haven't. Flash has a lot of great things about it. So for obviously ads, right? Flash is the dominant ad platform, and advertisers we like to think of them as our friends. Also, there's great development tools out for it. I don't know. Is there a source level debugger for JavaScript and HTML5 browsers? I'm sure there's one somewhere coming, but there's one here now in Flash. Flash has actually been really useful for us in all sorts of ways we didn't anticipate. Just in terms of throwing together quick and dirty utilities, or doing all sorts of simple web tests. All our chat on the site is actually run by a separate Flash widget that's embedded at the end of the page that handles the socket connection, and that's totally divorced from other clients. So Flash does something really well. Yes?
If we're going to build a free-to-play model, what should we expect as a better revenue bucket, the ad bucket or the in-game microtransaction?
How long is a piece of string? I think a lot of it depends on the type of game you're building. If you look at a company like Zynga, which last year I think at 1.8 billion in revenue, mostly from China, they're about 80% microtransaction, 20% ads. But if you look at a company like QuickHit, I think it's easier to attract advertisers to something that has an NFL license because there are all sorts of advertisers out there that want to get their brand on anything NFL that they can. So that's been helpful to us. Anything else? Yes?
You asked about the drop-off. Our experience on Facebook is that the drop-off on the Unity install step is 50% itself.
Right.
So anything that you're doing before and after is only going to make it worse. But they still haven't fixed that problem.
I don't know if there's anything they can do.
Well, they can. Actually, they can. And they're trying to do it in 3.0, but it's still not a.
You're talking about people who install but don't successfully install.
No. Just the whole allow step.
What else could they do?
Well, they in 3.0.
Except being bundled with the browser, which obviously.
Yeah, I know. There's some work that they did in JavaScript to actually simplify the install process, so that they removed an extra step. And I don't remember the details, but you should look at 3.0 and you can ping David.
We've been actively looking at it.
Is it an issue of the complexity of the install, which albeit not that complex, but we're talking about the great unwashed, or is it just the time it takes to do it?
It's
No,
pretty
it's-
small. It's
No,
only
one of the things they
20 minutes.
did, we had done this,
Doesn't take much
is
time.
they could take the, and again, we decoupled the install process to a 360K kernel and then streamed the rest. So the install was like, it looked like it took all of 10 seconds. And then while the game was loading, we were actually in effect installing the rest of the engine. And they made that part of 3.0 now, where you can decouple the bit that's really required.
I
Right.
think biggest hurdle, like if you ask Unity, they'll say, oh, if your content is compelling, 60 to 80% of people will download and install a plugin. I don't know. Like this moment, I'll take it to smoke. But I think the biggest barrier is just people don't want to install software. They might be on a work computer or on their school computer that they don't have access to. They might just be scared because
Well, he's kind of right, because there's 300 million people in the world with Skype. I mean, and Skype's a huge install, so it's not that, there's a balancing act between those two.
sure, but I would say, we think we're mainstream because we're NFL, but Skype is the telephone thing. You can't get more mainstream than that.
It's also pre-installed.
But it wasn't originally. The compelling nature of it was, the use case was so compelling,
Right.
save international phone costs,
Right.
that people would do anything to install it.
I would say that's
We're not there yet as a game, the games environment.
It's a casual game.
It's an option, right, it's never a requirement.
Is there a factor involved?
I would like to think that our game is more compelling than people's families, but
Does the browser factor into the, I want to do this install or not? Like, for example, Skype, it's a separate program. I'm going to download it and I'm going to start it, and I'm in control. When it's a browser-based plugin, this shit just happens. And I might feel a little less secure about it.
No, you still have an allow step. It's still, the browser says, are you sure you want to install this as coming from a foreign source? Blah, blah, blah. So there's.
Yeah,
I think there's two things. Flash, you have to install Flash, right?
no, Flash is pre-installed.
Is it?
Yeah.
You still have to do your updates.
And anyone who wants to watch YouTube up until recently had to install. Again, the ecosystem was larger, so
Right,
that.
I mean, but there was a time when it wasn't pre-installed and didn't stop people. And
Right, but
even now it's like free one. But the other thing is that
Remember, Flash kind of jumped when they were bundled with Netscape and Navigator, I think. 10 years ago or 15 years ago or something. And that's when it really started to do it.
the other thing is that Google is working on a beta version of the website natively in Google Chrome. And
That's great.
so
I'll just do the same thing.
so if they're doing that, then the other browsers are likely to do that.
I wouldn't agree with that. No offense, but, and also I think you need to qualify what David says a little bit in terms of when that actually is gonna happen, right? A plugin is different than a native app inside, Firefox has had plugins for a long time, which Unity never bothered to deal with, which they should have, but they didn't. So we're back to square one. It's still a third-party app. It has to be installed. But anyway, 50%, no matter what we did, landing pages, we had 2 million users on Facebook. It didn't matter.
Which game?
It was Hangout.
Oh,
It was,
okay.
so we lost 50% at that step. And it
Was
never,
it before the first click, or after? You can't tell.
no, we could tell. It was at the moment when you had to click, install.
They did.
They did.
50% did.
Exactly.
So nothing to do with the complexity of the process.
It's
But
just.
Did you solve the problem or no?
Huh?
You solved it somewhat by,
Yeah.
by separating. No?
Oh, well, they still had to click it.
Yeah.
So that didn't go away. The actual length of the install was irrelevant. We found that it didn't matter.
It's all about expectation.
Well, or allowance. A lot of
What if-
kids can't, if you're playing with teens, they can't install stuff on them.
What if you put some dummy kind
so
of
it's the
game
billing
stuff in?
information problem. It's a form issue. It's the same issue you get, it's the same kind of permission issue you get when you try to get anybody to sign up for anything. It's how much information or how intrusive is this thing going, what's my level of perception as to how intrusive this is to me?
Or how nefarious.
Yeah,
And they don't know Unity, and so they go, I'm not installing this.
Have you guys thought of doing the same thing here with try a Flash version and then get them to upgrade to the
Well,
Unity?
that's been the holy grail, is to try to see if you can upgrade them. But that's they went through 9 months of extra work, and they still haven't changed that conversion function.
have you ever considered just bundling, like packaging it as an application? It's a relatively, small shell you need to
The
build.
very first version that we ever shipped last football season was actually a downloadable Flash application. And it was miserable. We have time for about one more question, so we'll move on. Anybody else? All right. Guess let's-
One more
let's think.
question, the virtual jerk that you sell, what's an example of that?
So there's a few things you can, when you sign up to the site, you can pick an NFL team, and then if you can play through their season. If you want to play through other seasons, you buy those. When you play the game, you get points. You use those points to improve your players. You can also buy those points to improve quicker. There's also custom logos, so non-NFL logos, but we've got Vipers and horses and stuff.